Alright, let me just put this out there. The Edmonton Oilers are wasting McDavid's prime, and we are watching it happen in real time. They did it when he was 18. They did it when he was 24. They did it last year. And based on how this season has started, they're doing it again. Every year, fans think, this has to be the one, and somehow get proven wrong by the All-Star break. How many times do you have to burn your hand on the stove before you accept it's hot? And I know, that's a strong statement, but just stick with me. You'll see it. Because once we lay everything out piece by piece, it stops being controversial and starts being painfully obvious. By the time we're halfway through, you'll probably be asking yourself why no one in that front office is panicking yet. The early years, lottery team with a Ferrari. Connor McDavid gets drafted first overall in 2015. He's 17 years old, basically still deciding whether to ask his parents to drive him to practice. He steps into a franchise that has spent years treating organizational dysfunction like it's part of the culture. The Oilers missed the playoffs in 3 of his first 4 seasons, and across his first 6 seasons in the league, they only won 1 playoff series. 1. That's like hiring Einstein and telling him to focus on office printer issues. You don't waste genius on damage control, but somehow they did exactly that. He's breaking records while playing on teams that couldn't compete with most beer league rosters. Imagine showing up to work every day doing everything perfectly, and your team is still hanging by a thread because Karen from accounting forgot to submit the budget report. That's McDavid in 2018. He was the answer to every problem, except the problems were never solved around him. Instead of building a fortress around their superstar, they basically told him to swing harder. And none of this was about his ability. The man was dropping numbers that would qualify as all-time great in almost any era. He was dragging that roster uphill by himself and being told, we just need a few more years. A few more years turned into a lost decade. And you don't get those years back in pro sports, especially not as a generational athlete. Those windows slam shut faster than most executives realize. Then we thought, finally, this is it. Now fast forward, things look promising. They finally reached the Stanley Cup final in 2024, and McDavid puts on a postseason performance that belongs in a museum. 32 assists, breaking Wayne Gretzky's single postseason record. This isn't great, this is history. It was the kind of performance where neutral fans start rooting for him out of respect. You know it's special when people who don't even watch hockey are sharing highlight clips. They lose. Then they go back in 2025, and you're thinking, all right, redemption arc, movie script. Nope. They lose again. And again to the Florida Panthers. It was deja vu with extra pain and fewer excuses. You almost start wondering if Edmonton has cursed goalposts. Now, losing once is heartbreaking. Losing twice in a row? That's the sports version of waking up late, spilling coffee on your white hoodie, and stepping into a puddle before reaching the car. McDavid said after the second loss that the Panthers were simply the better team. And you know what? That's the problem. Edmonton had the greatest player on earth and still wasn't the better team. Now that's not on McDavid, that's on the people who built the roster around him. Because at that stage, the difference wasn't talent, it was strategy. This season, the Oilers are a one-line hockey team disguised as a contender. As of November 20th, 2025, let me give you what you need to know. They've won just 6 regulation games all season. They're barely holding on to the last wildcard spot. They're on pace for 90 points, which historically does not get you into the playoffs. That's like pacing for a C- and telling everyone you're Ivy League material. It's not realistic and it's not sustainable. Now let me put it another way. When McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are not on the ice, Edmonton is being outscored 30-9 and sits at an expected goal share of just 42.4%. That means without their 2 superstars, the Oilers perform at the level of, well, one of those teams that tank on purpose. If this were any other organization, they'd be marketed as rebuilding, not contending. But Edmonton keeps selling hope like it's a renewable resource. Imagine building your entire identity on 2 players, then saying, why aren't we winning championships? At some point, the answer isn't talent, it's the fact that you're asking 2 guys to do the work of 12. If your whole team collapses when the Stars take a breather, was it really a team to begin with? And it's not just offense, the defense is a fire drill. Second most even-strength goals against in the NHL, 65. Third worst goal differential at even strength, minus 17. And the defensive coverage has been described by players and coaches as tragic. Even their own guys are calling it tragic. Nobody should be describing their defense using words typically reserved for Shakespearean endings, yet here we are. Darnell Nurse is off to one of the roughest starts of his career. Brett Kulak and Jake Wallman have struggled, and I'd swear half the goals the opposition scores are because the Oilers accidentally part like they're letting someone change lanes on the highway. It's defense by polite courtesy, and polite courtesy doesn't work against NHL forwards coming full speed. And don't get me started on goaltending. Stuart Skinner, love the guy, but at some point, we can't keep calling inconsistent play growing pains when he's been the starter for 4 seasons. Edmonton brought in Connor Ingram as insurance. Cool, except they doubled down on Skinner anyway. Other teams are out here playing chess with their goaltending, and Edmonton is still stuck playing Go Fish. Nobody wins championships by hoping their net becomes less leaky. Depth scoring, or as Oilers fans call it, what depth scoring? Want to know how bad the bottom 6 is? They've been producing fewer combined points than any season since McDavid entered the NHL. Think about that. The worst ever. And this follows an offseason where they lost 169 total points of production and 24 playoff goals, replacing them with 4 rookies with 0 NHL experience, and players coming off their worst seasons. That's like losing your starting 5 players in basketball and replacing them with 4 first-year bench guys and someone recovering from ACL surgery. How did management look at that and say, yeah, I love this plan? It's like they're trying to win with vibes and personality tests instead of proven depth. It gets better. They also let walk or lose Corey Perry, Evander Kane, and injuries have limited Zach Hyman. Those are your net front enforcers, the gritty guys that make messy goals happen. But Edmonton said, what if we didn't do that? They basically removed their muscle and then seemed surprised when nobody's protecting the puck. Depth wins playoffs, everyone knows it, except apparently the guys drawing up contracts. Now here's the twist people don't want to talk about. It's not that McDavid is declining, it's that he's still peaking. He's 28 years old right now. The perfect combination of athletic prime, decision-making, and experience. The exact moment where elite stars win titles. These are the years athletes spend their entire lives preparing for. You don't play these seasons experimenting. And to show you how big this window is, Sidney Crosby won 3 cups before turning 30. Wayne Gretzky's championship window was highly concentrated. Both had teams actively built around them. Edmonton? They have McDavid on a team-friendly contract extension he took in 2025, same $12.5 million cap hit, to give them flexibility, and they still didn't fix their biggest problems. He literally made their job easier, and instead of using that advantage, they treated it like a cash rebate. Now let me say that again. Connor McDavid left money on the table to help the Oilers build a better team, and the team responded by not doing that. What more do you want from your superstar? Should he start drafting players too? If that doesn't blow your mind, check your pulse, because at this point it's not incompetence, it's negligence. So, what happens next? McDavid has 3 more realistic playoff runs under contract. 3 chances before questions start looming about his long-term future. If they keep wasting seasons like this, the Oilers don't just risk another final loss, they risk losing McDavid via trade demand or free agency. And if that happens, the embarrassment won't even fit on a banner. It'll be the kind of moment that gets replayed in sports history documentaries. And trust me, if he ever walks, not even Oilers fans could blame him. In fact, most might drive him to the airport out of respect. The cruel part? He's still playing at a ridiculous level. He hit 100 points in 67 games last year, and over his last 10 games this season, he's put up 6 goals and 12 assists. His numbers are not dropping. In some areas, they're better. He's playing like someone with one mission: give me something to work with. And it's not like he's slowing down, it's that the team is failing to keep up. Imagine being in a relay race and having to pass the baton to someone jogging casually. That's what this feels like. The bottom line: The Oilers aren't wasting McDavid's prime because he's declining. They're wasting it because they failed him for years through organizational incompetence. They lost back-to-back finals without addressing the core weaknesses. They ignored depth, defense, and goaltending despite cap flexibility. And now, with time running out, they are still acting like this window is endless. But it's not. And this might end as one of the greatest mismanagement stories in modern sports. If this ends badly, nobody says McDavid didn't win. They'll say Edmonton failed McDavid. You have the most talented hockey player alive at peak ability on a discount, and you're fighting for wildcard spots. The math does not math. Tell me that's not madness, because if this was any other franchise, they'd be getting roasted daily. Final question. So, I'll leave you with this. If Connor McDavid finishes his career without a Stanley Cup in Edmonton, do we blame him? Or do we blame the people who had the best player in the world and decided to build a team like they were playing franchise mode on rookie difficulty? Let me know what you think. Would you stick around if you were McDavid? Or would you pull a get me out of here if this season goes sideways? And don't lie, half of you are already thinking exit route. Hit like if you feel bad for Edmonton fans. And if you're still watching, you're real. Subscribe so you don't miss what might be the most important season of McDavid's entire career. Because if something doesn't change soon, this era is going to go down as the biggest wasted prime in hockey history. And if that happens, nobody's going to be angry. We'll all just be disappointed we saw it coming and nothing changed.